How to stop struggling with loneliness. I'm dog sitting for my friend and he doesn't like to be left alone, so he has to like be with me all the time. Yeah. Feeling lonely and struggling with loneliness is actually way more common than you may think. And the reason why I think it's extremely important to address for me as a nutritionist is because a lot of people will tell me that they get into binge eating episodes or like emotional eating episodes or episodes where they just eat more than their physical hunger because they feel lonely, and that drives them to eat to get a certain like type of comfort from food. And I also think that learning to deal with the struggle of loneliness is good for well-being as a whole. First, we're going to talk about why people feel lonelier than ever today. Obviously, since COVID, people have been feeling lonelier and more isolated because a lot of the measures put in place, like working from home for instance, continue to apply for many people, and people are finding themselves staying at home more and building connections less. The digital age we're in is also a paradox when it comes to loneliness because we have access to billions of potential friends at our fingertips, but a lot of us feel more lonely now because we're kind of trading face-to-face interactions with virtual interactions. We're spending more time calling or like FaceTiming or like texting with people than actually seeing them. Our schedules are also getting like busier and busier. It's like nobody has the time to do anything anymore. With certain people, if you want to make plans, you have to like book them 3 months in advance. And there's also a bit of a Maslow's pyramid situation for a lot of us where the need to not feel lonely and to be loved and to belong in a community and family, that's like towards the middle of the pyramid. And for a lot of people, like the two like base pillars before that are met, and so now they're hyper focused on this one that's not met, whereas previously we were focusing on like the bottom pillar. We were trying to get fed, we're trying to stay like housed, and we're trying to like stay alive. Also, I think that as a society we're becoming more and more individualistic. We put our needs above everyone else's, and you know, I think that's good. It's good to prioritize your needs, but also you can't be prioritizing your needs and also expecting other people to be prioritizing your needs. And I think that some people can fall in this kind of uncomfortable gap where they prioritize others' needs, but the people's whose needs they prioritize are prioritizing their own needs. So they feel like there's nobody there. There's nobody prioritizing their needs. For a lot of people, they can see spending time in like communities, like they can see that as a waste of time. Even if it's like their own extended family, for them it's like wasting time. It's time where they could be working on themselves, pursuing one of their passions, or getting ahead on work, or going to the gym, or any of these things. There's also a big difference in feeling alone and being lonely. I, for one, love the first one. I live alone, I work from home alone, and I don't see that many people during the week. However, I know that I have a whole bunch of people to rely on, and I know that I'm never truly lonely, and I know that if I want to talk to these people or even see these people, I can do so whenever I want. But if I don't have that, then being physically alone becomes very difficult, almost pressing and completely depressing. So I can only truly feel good alone when I'm never really lonely. So here are some ways that you can stop struggling with loneliness. Self-acceptance and understanding. The first step towards conquering loneliness is realizing that it is a natural emotion that many people feel. Tell yourself that you are not alone in feeling alone, and let that be comforting in a sense. It's important to really practice compassion in the situation and to try to react in the same way that you would if somebody, a friend, somebody you know and love would tell you that they're lonely. This is the first step towards breaking the negative cycle of loneliness if you can destigmatize it and understand that it's something that is normal and that there's no issue with you, that it's just a situation that you're in right now and a situation that many people face at one point in their lives, and there's just nothing to be ashamed of at all. Just a little reminder that you can find all of the services I offer on my website, and that's going to be the first link in the description. You can check out things that are paid, like my nutrition coaching sessions or my courses, but there's also a ton of free material, from webinars to ebooks to checklists to challenges, so make sure to check that out. Trying to identify the root cause of your loneliness can also be helpful. For some of you watching, maybe you feel lonely because of a tangible physical reason, like maybe you just broke up, or maybe your best friend moved away, or maybe you changed jobs and don't know anybody, or anything like that. Or it may also be a more kind of permanent feeling that you've been having for a while. Maybe you feel that you are surrounded by people, but that your social expectations aren't met, and that's causing a very deep loneliness. I think that it's important to identify the kind of situation you're in so that you can work on the tips that best fit with that situation. Be comfortable with yourself. Learning to be comfortable in your own presence is a very important aspect of feeling less lonely. And I've heard a lot of people say that they wish that they could find somebody who would see them as their first choice, as their number one priority. But if you can't find that person, then you should be that person. You are in charge of taking care of yourself. You are in charge of meeting your needs and of making yourself feel happy, of doing things that bring you joy. As Mark Twain once said, the worst loneliness is not being comfortable with yourself. Find alignment in your life. If you aren't aligned with what you do, and if you feel unhappy where you're at, then you're more likely to feel lonely, because the people around you are in a world that fulfills them and you're not. Like if you dislike what you're studying, or if you despise your job, or if you're pursuing hobbies that you don't really enjoy, and all the people that are doing these things with you are really loving all these things and are really fulfilled, then it can make you feel a special kind of lonely. Being surrounded by people who are thriving in an environment where you feel drained is weird, yeah, but it's not your fault. Not everybody is going to be fulfilled in the same environment. We're all different. You need to understand that you're not the problem in this situation. Just because one type of environment is right for somebody doesn't mean that it has to be right for you, and you just need to focus on getting aligned with your work, with your hobbies, with your choices, with the people you surround yourself with your whole life, really. Do social things you love. Consider joining clubs or organizations or even online communities that align with your interests and passions and hobbies. Sharing activities and common interests is a great way to spark conversations that actually really fulfill you and that you actually really enjoy, and do that with people that can then develop into friends, and like even really good friends, and that can really be the first step to alleviating your loneliness. You could also try volunteering in a field that really matters for you. Chances are you'll meet people there who have the same values as you, and that will be easier to, again, build connection. And even if that doesn't happen and the people that you volunteer with don't like evolve into friends, then at least you're doing something that you feel purpose in, and that can really help boost your self-esteem, your confidence, and your general well-being, which can then in turn make you more comfortable for looking for friends elsewhere. I put the social part in parentheses because even if you don't join clubs, organizations, or things that are really social with like a bunch of people, even if you invest time into your hobbies and passions and they are like individual things that you do, it can still be a great way to stop being lonely, this will contribute to your overall joy, happiness, and fulfillment, and give you more confidence to then approach others who maybe have like-minded interests. And if you're doing them in the comfort of your own home, it's still giving you more to potentially connect with when you do meet others. It's also super crucial that you focus on building meaningful connections. If you're trying to fight loneliness by surrounding yourself with a bunch of random people that you don't connect with, that's not going to help the problem. That can make it even worse. And sometimes also when you're lonely, you can go into like social withdrawal. That also makes the problem worse. Don't do any of these things. Ideally, you should work on one or two of your existing relationships and try to build them into more meaningful connections. You really need to prefer the quality of your relationships over the quantity. A big tip I have for you here is to start being proactive in these relationships. If you have at least one relationship that you feel matters, but you feel that you're not getting paid attention to, or they're not your first choice, I know that it can seem defeating, but at least give it a shot and try to be the one initiating for a little bit. We all have phases in life where we have more or less energy to allocate to like seeing friends and making plans. And that doesn't mean that these people are like bad friends or bad people. They could just be overwhelmed with what's going on in their life right now. But if you try to come to them with like a plan and a specific like date and time, something that's not too time consuming, and you tell them like, I would love to see you, I would love to do this with you and that, and they just have to agree, then chances are it's going to be a stepping stone for kind of furthering that relationship. And if you feel like you have no existing relationships to nurture or nobody that you want to pour that much effort in, then put all your focus into finding your alignment, into joining like hobbies, clubs, groups, things that I talked about earlier, and then you'll naturally start to connect with people who are more similar to you. It's kind of like when we say you'll find love when you least expect it, like a romantic relationship. Well, I feel it's the same for all relationships. If you're too hyper focused on trying to find people so you're not as lonely, then that can backfire. But if you're really focusing on yourself and putting yourself out there without your main goal being like finding friends, then I think that people will be more drawn to you naturally. And finally, you really need to work on practicing gratitude. This is something that has been extremely beneficial for me in my journey towards self-care and positivity. If you're always focusing on how negative your life is, how you don't have any friends, how you don't get along with your family, and how you just feel so lonely in this world, then you are getting yourself stuck in this negative spiral where you can't possibly attract any positive energy because you're so closed off to them, and there's like no room for them to actually come in. So take some time to list all of the positive things that are happening in your life and the things that you are grateful for. This doesn't mean that you should settle in a situation where you're unhappy, but it does mean that you should recognize all of the already positive things in your life as you strive for more and for what will truly make you fulfilled and satisfied. Also, this was not supposed to be part of the video, but honestly, after filming this entire video with him right here, it made me realize that if you're lonely, you should definitely get a pet. And please remember that loneliness is a temporary state that you can overcome if you give yourself the means to. It's not something that you are going to be stuck in forever. Even if you may feel that way, I promise it's not. I promise it will pass. And I hope some of these tips were helpful. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it, subscribe, and see you on my next one. Bye!